Hey guys, Private Jack. Okay, welcome to part 2 in my series on how to get the Half-Life1 and GoldSrc models into Source FilmMaker. So, now that we've gone and actually extracted the models and put them into folders on our desktop, this video is going to cover creating the actual textures for the models and getting them ready for use in Source FilmMaker. To do this, I'm going to use GIMP and the VTF plugin. If you go back to the introduction to the series, I give you a list of where to actually go and pick up these items that I use and show you where to download them from. So anyway, make a long story short, let's get into it. So inside these folders now, we've got all our models, and this one we're going to use, I don't know which one. Where's the head crab? Let's do the head crab. I'm going to open up the head crab, and here are the actual textures for the head crab. Okay, so they're all BMP files, and I'm going to grab each and every one of them, and I'm going to pull them up and put them into GIMP. Now, these are very basic rudimentary type textures. Don't expect them to be too big. And the first thing that I see here is that the textures are not to the power of 2. This one is only 128 by 140. The power of 2 means that they must be 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, and 4096 in size. Okay, so that can be 512 by 64 or 1024 by 512, 512 by 4096. Why you would want something like that, I have no idea. But anyway, that's what the power of 2 means. And these textures are not to the power of 2, so they will not convert to an actual valve texture. Okay, what we would have to do with these ones is actually go through and do an entirely different process. I don't want to go there right now, so we're just going to leave this one alone, and I may add a video at the end of the series showing you how to fix this type of model. Okay, so that being said, let's get rid of the head crab. And find another model. Let's take one of the characters. How about G-Man? Or no, we were going to do Gordon in the first place, so let's try and have a look at Gordon here. So I'm going to grab the BMPs, and I'm going to pull them up here into GIMP. So here we see that this one is to the power of 2. It's 256 by 256. What about the head? 128 by 128. That is 64, 128. Yeah, it is to the power of 2. So these ones can be converted into valve textures. So the way that we do this is and this is a problem that we have with the BMPs and GIMP. I don't know where the disconnect is, but when I create the the VTFs for these, what's going to happen is the first time I try to export it, it's going to end up a transparent or a black texture. I have to actually export them twice in order to get them to take. So let's have a look at that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to File, Export, and I'm going to go to my user mod folder. So Steam Apps, Common, Source FilmMaker, Game, User Mod. I'm going to go into the Materials folder, and here I'm going to set up my material folder for this particular series. Okay, so this is going to be Blue Shift. I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call it Blue Shift. Okay, now this is a Gordon model. I want to put it in, I want to put its textures in a Gordon folder. So I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to call it Gordon. Okay, now that I'm in this folder, I'm going to export. No, I'm not. I'm going to rename the file to dmbase.vtf. Now I'm going to export. Okay, I'm going to leave everything the way it is and hit export. Now, look here. See how this is turned translucent? If I actually go and look at this model now, it is like red, green, blue, nothing transferred to the actual channels. And I think I now know the reason why. BMPs are indexed type textures or materials or images, okay? The Valve VTF is a red, blue, green alpha, red, green, blue alpha type material, okay? The index is not being pushed into the proper channels. So, one of the things that we can try to do, first I'm going to finish exporting this one again. Now that this is a red, blue, green and that the channels have been transferred, I can file, export, and just export on top of this one. I'm going to replace it and I'm going to leave everything the way it is and say OK. Now if I look at this texture in the VTF folder, right, I can see that it is actually colored now. Okay, so for the next one, okay, this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color mode of the actual texture. And to do that, I'm going to go image, mode, and I'm going to change it from indexed to red, green, blue. Now the red, green, blue have the actual textures assigned to them. When I export this now, file export, I'm going to use recently used, go into my Gordon folder. I'm going to change the BMP to VTF and hit export. Leave everything the way it is and say OK. Looking at this material now, I see that it did not turn transparent. Okay, it did not turn into a black texture. If I look at the texture now in where it was, okay, open and look at that face now, I find that that VTF is actually textured. Okay, the red, green, blue channels actually came through. So this guy is good. Okay, so I can close that off now. And that's got the Gordon textures done. Let's do another one. So I'm going to go close these guys out. And I'm going to go into what? I want a weapon. Okay, so let's grab a W weapon or a P weapon. W weapon is probably best. Or P. I can't remember which is better. I want his crowbar. Okay, so here's the crowbar, and here are the actual textures for it, the BMP. I'm going to pull that into GIMP, and hopefully it will be to the power of 2. 4 by 33. It is not to the power of 2, and it is like a very small texture. I mean, my brush is even bigger than it. So what can we do here? Well, 4 is to the power of 2, but 33 isn't. So 4, 8, 16, 32. It needs to come down in size by 1 pixel. So I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to go into the image. I'm going to scale the image. I'm going to break the connection between the width and height so that the aspect is not maintained. And I'm going to change the 33 to a 32 and hit scale. So that brought it up by 1 pixel at the bottom. It should not affect the actual model because it's only 1 pixel, but we won't know that until actually the time that we get it into Source FilmMaker now. So with that, I'm going to File, Export. I'm going to put it in that Blue Shift folder, so recently used. Gordon, up 1 level to Blue Shift, and I'm going to create a folder called Crowbar. I'm going to drill into that folder, and I'm going to export, change the file name to VMT, or VTF rather, and export the actual VTF. Yeah, okay, and export the texture. Oh, no, sorry, cancel that, cancel that. Before I export it, it's a BMP, it's an indexed material. I'm going to go to Image, Mode, change it to RGB. Okay, now I'm going to File, Export, go into the Crowbar folder that we just created, change the file name to VTF, and export. Leave everything the way it is and go OK. Because it's now to the power of 2, I can create the VTF. If I look at that material now in the folder, it's colored. Okay, so we're good to go. Let's do another. Let's do the actual sniper. Okay, here is another problem that we have with the actual pulling of the BMPs from the game files. If I go into the sniper folder here, I'm going to find that I only have 1 BMP, and that is the red the red sniper. I don't know why. I know that there's a blue texture, and I know that I have pulled the blue texture out of the actual model file before, but I don't know why it's not coming out now. Okay, so if you want a red and blue, what you're going to have to do is you're actually going to have to edit the red texture and call it something else. So in GIMP, I'm going to close out everything. I'm going to pull that BMP into GIMP. It's a BMP, indexed BMP. I'm going to go to Image, Mode, change it to RGB. Now it's red, green, blue. Okay, and to the power of 2, 512 by 512, which is good. I'm going to File, Export. I'm going to go into Recently Used, go to my Crowbar file, come back up to Materials by clicking on Materials. I'm going to add a new folder, and I'm going to call this TFC for Team Fortress Classic. I'm going to drill into that folder. I'm going to create a new folder, call it Sniper. And I'm going to actually change the file extension to VTF and export. Leave everything the way it is, say OK. You have to do this for each and every material that you have for the models that you're going to actually export. I'm going to do one that has 2 textures now, and that's the actual gorilla from the CS 1.6, just to illustrate. Okay, so I'm going to close all. Go back into my folders here, find CS16, find the gorilla. And in here I have two textures. I've got the backpack and I've got the gorilla. I'm going to pull both of those into GIMP. I did that wrong. File X, close all. Select both of them, pull them into GIMP so that they open as their own individual textures. Again, they're indexed VMTs. So now I have to go into Image, Mode, RGB. That will create the RGB for that one. Select this one, same thing, Image, Mode, RGB. Textures are to the power of 2, 128 by 128 and 512 by 512. So they will create VTFs. File export. Recently used. Now I'm going to go back into my sniper folder, come back up to the materials level, create a folder. I'm going to call this one CS16. I'm going to create a folder in that called Gorilla, and I'm going to use the actual spelling this time. Create a folder, call it Gorilla, drill into that one, change BMP to VTF, hit export, leave everything the way it is. Okay. Grab the satchel now, and I'm going to file export, and recently used, click on my game user mod materials C16 Gorilla because I want it to go into the same folder. Change the file name to VTF, hit enter, and say OK. So those are my textures done for the models that I want to convert for now. Okay. Now we have to write the VMTs for these, and it's very simple to do. All we have to do is grab VTFEdit, and in the tools section there is a create VMT function. Okay, click on that, go to options. VTFEdit defaults to lighted map generic because it was used mainly for creating brushes and textures for maps. Lighted map generic does not work in Source Filmmaker. What we actually require for a shader is vertex lit generic, or where is it? Lit generic? No. Unlit generic. Those two will work, and a couple of the other ones here will as well. Okay. Now, for this particular texture, just in case there's holes in the model that I can see through, I don't want to be able to see through the back end of the model and see the wall behind it. So I'm going to turn on no call. And what that will do is it will paint the back side of the face of the mesh on the inside of the model so that I can't see through it. Okay. Now I'm going to click the Textures tab, and I'm going to click on the browser button here for base texture 1, and I'm going to go to those user mod folders now, material folders in user mod, and I'm going to load the textures. So user mod materials models. First one is, what did I do? Did I do it wrong? I think I did it wrong. How much you want to bet I put them in the models folder? No? Where did I put those? Oh, wait, materials. I didn't put them in the right level. What I want to do is I want to bring all of these down into models. So CS16, I'm going to bring that and I'm going to pull that down into models. It's opened by another file. Of course it is. File close all. discard changes, exit GIMP so it will release it. CS16, I'm going to pull that down into models. Blue shift, I'm going to pull that down into models. And TFC, I'm going to pull that up into models because I want them in that particular path. Okay, so now I've got CS16 here, I've got blue shift here, and I've got TFC. So first one I'm going to work with is blue shift. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go into the crowbar. I'm going to select that material or that texture, say open. Come on. Cancel that. Okay, and click on create. Blue shift models, blue shift crowbar, crowbar. Let's see. Blue shift models, crowbar, crowbar. Correct. Open that texture and click create. I'm going to leave it named crowbar VMT and hit save. Now for the next one. Blue shift, Gordon. I'm going to grab the base. Now because I've changed the options here, they won't change unless I actually physically change them again. So all I have to do is load textures now and save, unless I want to change something to a translucent or an alpha test or something like that, or change the shader. I could actually add surfaces too, so whatever, armor, flesh, whatever. Not necessary for Source Filmmaker. So, okay, so textures, DM base, create. It will actually name the file VMT, save it. Next texture, face, open, create, save the face, save. Next texture, we're done with blue shift. Up here, CS16, gorilla, DM base, open, create, create, backpack, open, create, save, and finally the sniper. Models, TFC, sniper, remap. I'm going to leave that the way it is, open, and I'm going to leave the name exactly as it says there, save. And that is it. Those are our textures done. There's no bump maps, there's no environmental maps. It's very simple and done. Okay, next video we're going to go into QC writing and get the QCs ready. A little bit more involved, and basically there's a few changes that we have to make in each and every one of those. But those are the models that we're going to export and get into Source Filmmaker. So with that, see you in the next one. Private Jack out.